Hey guys, do you know that working out can keep your back healthy? And back pain is one of the top injuries that most people experience or visit a doctor for. And roughly 80% of Americans will experience back pain at some point in their life. And the threshold of pain that they have with that, or the amount of pain they have with that, will vary from person to person. But many times the back pain is a result of poor posture and typically from sitting. And what happens here is when people sit a lot, whether it's at their desk, in front of the TV, in front of their device, anything like that, in the car, what happens is the shoulders start to round forward and the pelvis starts to tuck under a little bit. And this posture creates muscle weaknesses, it creates atrophy in certain muscles. And when this happens, the muscles of the posterior chain, like your butt and your upper back and stuff, they just get inactive, and this creates problems. We're no longer in proper spinal alignment. We're not able to stabilize things as well. And that creates issues. And when the pelvis gets rounded under, the butt muscles start to turn off, and it starts to result in what's known as glute amnesia, or basically like a flat butt. But this is where we have no muscle definition, or very little muscle definition in the glutes, and very little muscle strength and activation in there. Because the glutes support the spine and they act as a foundation for the spine, when they aren't working properly, this excess stress will end up getting put on the low back. So kind of think of your glutes as like the foundation of the house, and then they're what holds the wall up and everything together. So that's what our glutes do for our spine. They act as a foundation for our entire upper body, and in particular the spine. So if they're not strong, they're not going to be able to hold that as well. Also, when this happens, when the butt's weak, the hamstrings then are required to kind of make up for this lack of glute function. And the way they do that is by tightening up. So now they're pulling down onto the spine, especially on the low back. And that's what starts to get that where our pelvis rolls under a little bit. And that can lead to more back pain. It can lead to issues, different things like that. So the good news is if you wake up the butt, you get the butt muscles stronger, and you get the pelvis back into alignment, you're going to have less back pain. You're going to have a stronger back, more healthy, or a healthier back, and everything like that, and prevent injuries down the road. The spine itself is basically made up of a bunch of segments of joints the whole way up through. And we have different areas. We've got the lumbar, the thoracic, the cervical. We have the sacrum below the lumbar there. But they're all set up in a way for stabilization. They allow different levels of rotation, things like that. But what happens is when one of these segments gets curved wrong, so they kind of make like a little bit of an S curve if you think about it coming down. If we change the curve at one end, it's going to change the curve at the other end. So what happens when the shoulders roll forward, that affects the curve at the lower back where that starts to tilt under, or vice versa. And when this happens, that creates issues. We're no longer in that right postural alignment, and that creates just some issues on the back and puts us into a little bit of a compromised position where things can get hurt and stuff like that. So this is why when we're working out, we want to do stuff to get that get that spinal alignment back, get the pelvis to separate from the upper body, get the upper body to be able to rotate through the hips and through the thoracic spine versus rotating on the lumbar spine. A lot of times those areas get locked together and things like that. But the good news is if you work out regularly and you're working on correcting and preventing these movements, doing a little bit of mobility and corrective stuff, we can strengthen the glutes up, we can get better posture, and we can get these muscles back working the way they should, and that's going to prevent our back pain down the road. So that's our tip today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have questions, put them in the bottom, the comments here, and I'll be glad to answer them for you. Talk to you next week.